This used to be a lawn ornament just rotting away in a yard. Leaves and dirt and grime caked into it. It was fated to die off that way unless somebody came to rescue it. The cost for rescuing it will be your time, but the benefit won't just be all the sheer money you save doing it yourself, but how long and how well built the boat will be. Even if it's built on a budget, there are some corners you just can't cross. You need to know which ones those are. However you build your boat, you need to be thinking about scenarios like this. That means there's certain things you won't be able to skimp on, but there's certain things you can. Either way, this boat was built for the long game, and if you have 10 minutes, I'll show you how. So if you want a longer version of this, I have a video out there. It's about an hour. It explains this a lot more in depth. There's also a full series, but this one's specifically part of our 10-minute boat build series where we take our most complex and popular builds and break them down into 10 minutes for people who are extremely busy and don't have an hour. I can relate to that. We also formed a build kit by popular demand. Before, we just told people to go and source all this stuff themselves, and then we found out that that's actually really hard for people to do, so we simplified it. Give you framing kits just for freelance, whatever you want to build, or we have specific targeted kits like the subfloor, the bow plate, and of course an entire B-hull kit for this boat that you see in general. You can choose which one we are doing down here. I believe we have the Warrior. Warrior is what we're installing, and then we have ones more advanced than that. Either way, give us a like, a comment, a share, and a subscribe if you want to help us push past 200K. We also have exclusive videos never released to the YouTube public on Patreon, and also becoming a YouTube channel member here. Either way, guys, thank you much. Let's get on to the video. Alright, so this boat was from 1954. That means it had like wooden bow plate and wooden end caps. A lot of things that were wood that shouldn't be, and we know that now, so to go settle that, we had to make our own side rails. The transom was also old and archaic and trash, so we went and added an aluminum one. If you guys ponder on whether or not it's worth it to put aluminum stuff inside an aluminum boat, note that this is a 1954 Starcraft. That means it is 69 years old, almost 70 years old, and other than some corroded paint, the hull is basically unscathed. Meaning that adding aluminum into aluminum that will last the life of the boat. The things that actually matter, like the framing and the transom. Some other things you can use wood, and we'll show you those things, but there's some things you can't skimp on. And that is all the parts that are under constant tension and load and flex, like these end caps. They need to be aluminum. And also the bow plate also needs to be aluminum. It can have some wooden under supports, we've seen that in other boats, but the very, very top of it, the part that's actually connected to the boat, needs to be solid aluminum. And we have a bow plate kit specifically for this. It can be attached with just rivets, or if you can go all the way through the gunnel, stainless hardware is more optimal. The more difficult thing that people find in V-hulls like this versus flat bottom jump boats is the subfloor and some of the challenges that happen with the contour, which is why we have its own framing kit specifically for boats like this, that where it's flat at the back, contours toward the front. There's ways to offset that so you can have a flat deck. One of the benefits of a V-hull is that it does contour. That means water goes taper toward the front. It's easier to channel it, so we have that middle channel. It's really hard to do that in a John boat, because for one, they're generally too short, and two, the floor sucks because it's flat. And because of that, a lot of John boats have saturated foam on the bottom, and a lot of people are reluctant to either put it back in, and a lot of people just gut it out and just risk it, which is a terrible idea. So this one is fully packed with AB pour foam, and we can do that because there's a middle channel going down there, and we know that middle channel to be successful because out of all the old boats that I pull from the bottom, the only ones that have corrosion and damage to the bottom from saturated foam or saturated foam in general are the John boats. It's really hard to saturate a V-hull with a middle channel down there unless you just like don't have it jacked the right way, leave it completely exposed in the elements, and never pull the drain plug. Now everything was either riveted or fastened with stainless hardware, but after a while I was thinking, man, I really just need to learn how to weld. And so I figured out just enough skill to pull off the bow plates and the end caps, and that was all I was willing to risk being a newbie at it. So everything else was riveted. And contrary to popular belief of welders and fabricators in general, the frame can be bonded together with rivets quite well. Just as easy as putting a screw into wood with a drill, just with some extra steps. Now for the subfloor, we did resin coat that. It was going a little fast here, but essentially if you want wood to last, you need to resin coat it. The subfloor takes, I would say, probably most of the abuse in the boats. The only thing close to it is the transom, and then the decks generally don't take all the abuse because they're sitting up high and everything kind of flows down to the subfloor. So the subfloor needed to be double coated in resin to make sure it was just optimal. You can bond the subfloor to the frame with the self tappers, and you can bond the frame to the actual subfloor again with self-tappers or wood screws, and you bond the frame to the aluminum hull with rivets. Those sub panels were drilled through into the frame and then attached with rivets from the outside in. But any panels you want to have removable for maintenance, you would want to just use screws, obviously. We're running flex hose before we pour the foam in because you need conduits and you need a way in after you fill that void. And then we're onto the deck. We're using, I think, 5/8 plywood. Just standard stuff from the hardware store. We're installing our aluminum dry hatches right into the wood deck. They're just drop in, you cut a hole and you put in the hole size. If you want to router out the holes to make them completely flush, you can, but that really only matters with like the flat teak turf or custom turf jobs. If you're going to be running cut groove camo hydro turf, you cannot see the actual seam there. So there's no point to router out the edge to make it flush. After we're done with all that, we resin coat this twice. Really, you only need one layer on the bottom. Then you should kind of attach it and sand it. The wood will bloat with the resin penetrating it, so you'll have to go in there and sand it and finish it off to give it a smoother surface. And then just attach everything, the hatches to the deck, and then obviously the deck right into the frame. Just do that with self tappers. You could use like inch-long rivets, but it's really just overkill, and there's a bunch of extra steps, and the self tappers, enough of those will just hold the deck in place for life. Once you've attached all the deck panels and the lids to the frame, and then you prepped the surface and smoothed it out as best you can from the initial layer of resin, go ahead and hit it with the second layer of resin, and make sure to kind of put some protective tape over the hatches because, you know, the resin is kind of messy. And once you get all the seams in, then you can just pull that tape off before the resin actually starts to cure, and then it's perfectly laid in on the wood and not getting all over your aluminum hatches. You can also fill in any gaps or any imperfections. This will also help seal in all the screws you just installed. It'll just cap those right off and level it all out. If you sanded it correctly the first time, then you should have a nice glass layer finish with the second final coat. Before we do attach the hydroturf, we are going to go ahead and seal in all the sides so that all the water is forced to flow either through the dry hatch bleed offs or right into the subfloor itself. Hydroturf likes to stick onto smooth glassy surface, so the nice smooth glassy surface we got from the second layer of resin is going to be perfect for the adhesive backing on the hydroturf to stick to with no problems. Get a lot of questions if hydroturf will stick to wood or will it stick to non-skid. It'll stick to a semi-smooth surface that is not porous, kind of like low-grade truck bed liner that's doesn't have a crazy tack to it. It will not stick to bare wood because bare wood is porous and it won't do it. The easiest and cheapest way to prep the wood and preserve it is with oil-based enamel, and that will give a nice smooth grippable surface for the turf to stick to wood. And the more expensive but much more long-lasting version for the long game is marine resin, like what we used. And we had more or less a flawless install. If this video is too quick for you, we do have public videos online slowing this process down, and we even have like a very full in-depth video in our advanced masterclass to show you exactly how we cut along the edges and seam it and line it up and do all that stuff that we're doing here. But in short, we hope that we show you that it's pretty easy and very doable at the personal DIY level and does not need to be done by a professional. It can just be done by you all day, and it pieces together, it seams together even in pieces like this, and you can't see it. The camo hides the seams so well that unless you're looking for those seams, you won't find them. The only thing left now is the final rigging. So obviously it's a tiller. That makes it tremendously easier because it's already rigged at the motor. It's all the wiring. I mean, it can get really terribly convoluted, the wiring thing, but in this case, it's not really a lot. There's 6 switches with our custom TB Nation switch panels, then a 6-gang fuse block bus bar combo, a few inline fuses for some of the accessories like the fish finder that have their own standalone switch that don't need to be connected to the bus bar, and then we're tying that all up. We made the recess outside the side. I found it to be the best place right in the cockpit for tiller style boats like this. We always have a cutoff switch for safety, and we are running an AGM in there, but later on we switched to like a 50 amp hour lithium battery to run the entire house. In the front compartment, I was just gonna leave it open in the bottom because, you know, you have that deep stowage with the contour there, but the more I thought about it, the more I need more actual usable storage. So I ended up putting a subfloor in there, and having to do that post-design was kind of terrible. But eventually we got all of it going, and the final interior of the boat was done. Now on to the exterior. This is a budget build, so we're going to be rattle canning that. That's the cheapest way to paint this, but what type of paint you use on the hull is not as important as how you prep it. So to get the aluminum as clean as possible now that it's down to bare metal, we are going to be using that etch wash from Total Bolt, and that is the best stuff to clean the hull. It makes you watch all the contaminants and everything kind of run off. The aluminum becomes kind of tacky because it's the cleanest it's ever going to be in that moment. And then you can use any primer you want. And otherwise, if we didn't use etch wash, we'd have to use self-etching primer, which is an etching agent inside the primer versus just spraying an etching agent on and then choosing our own primer. That Ace Rust Stop, in my opinion, this orange stuff, it's like the most robust spray-on primer I've ever had in terms of durability, and that's why I've chosen to use it. I like the etch wash process with that primer because it's very easy to put on there, and it also comes in a spray can. Equivalent Rust Stop spray paint really isn't all that durable though. If you really want a durable spray paint, you got to go to an automotive store like AutoZone or O'Reilly's and get paint from there. Just the stuff that comes out of there actually is robust and will resist against scratches and abrasions. A nice solid black like this from Rust-Oleum or some other company like that's, you know, from a hardware store, it looks really good until you get like something rubs on it and it gets scratches. Overall, the paint holds up pretty good. It's not like it flakes off or just goes bad or starts to fade. It's just in the moment you got to be careful with it. So let's do a real short recap. This is what the boat used to look like, and with some time and a little bit of elbow grease, this is what it looks like now. Not bad, huh? Hard to find a boat that actually looks like this or performs this well for any decent price nowadays. Like a few years ago, DIYing boats like this just was the cheaper option. Now for many, it might be the only option. As boats become more and more unobtainable because of rising costs and choices from world leaders making everything spike and go nuts. And a lot of it's just cost of doing business. The companies aren't even trying to price their own audience out of market. It's just happening. But what do you do when it happens? There's one last thing I gotta tell you. So during the first debut, I liked it, but it felt a little short in terms of tackle. We did that on purpose because people wanted a more conservative, more open layout, which is what we did here, but that drives me nuts. I need places to store tackle. Since I can't make any new hatches, we put our vertical tackle storage everywhere. That way it can actually get it organized. Vertical tackle storage is the next best thing to actually putting hatches in your boat, and enough of these can actually replace the need to even put hatches in your boat completely. We have them in aluminum and plastic. This ended up becoming my primary boat that I used for a while, so I stuck all my junk on it. And let's see how well it performs out there in the suck during hard weather. So the lake I live on can be fished year-round, but it's got extremely clear waters. When there's blue skies with no clouds, it's really hard to catch fish. It can be done, but it's hard. And then generally they're of whatever quality, but to find like big fish like this, you kind of have to go into terrible weather, like in the worst conditions. Not normally conditions you would want to take a 14-foot aluminum boat in, ever. But this is no ordinary 14-foot boat. The amount of foam we stuck in this boat everywhere makes it plow through waves like a much bigger boat, possibly even a fiberglass boat. All the shuddering and the vibration that goes up your spine when you hit waves like that in a plain aluminum hull, it's non-existent anymore. You can't even tell. It's also impervious to sinking. There's so much foam in there that the water cannot physically fill up enough void in the boat to sink it. It's impossible. So if the weather gets a little rough, I don't really much care. That's the beauty of this whole thing. You get all these haters running their pie holes saying, why would you waste all the time and money on a small little aluminum piece of crap hole like this? Shut your mouth. What a bunch of dorks. You don't really understand anything about boat design, and that's why you're still mediocre. That's why the whole time you were building boats like this, they weren't much of anything until you met us. Then you took all our ideas, tried to put your own little spin on it, but people could still tell you copied us. Lacking the vibration of authenticity is bad for business. Remember that. No amount of lying and trickery and manipulation can hide who you are forever. Eventually people find you out. No matter what their intellect is, all they need is time. Matters really not to us though. We put all of our stuff publicly online so people can replicate our stuff, can take our ideas and use them to empower themselves. Much like this video, and hundreds of others just like it. I know this video is a little short, guys, but really this video is just meant to inspire you, to show you the process from start to finish. Again, I know this boat was a little different because it was so old. Most boats don't have wooden end caps and a wooden bow, or wooden side rails. Most of them are able to be managed and modified without ever touching a welder. Most of the boats we've done on this channel were completely fastened together with rivets and self-tappers. The things we did avoid using though is like pool noodles and wood studs for framing. Those things have no business in a boat. Styrofoam also really doesn't have any place in a boat. Those people still use it. The ping foam board is better than those other two options, although if gasoline touches it, much like the styrofoam, it will start to melt it. You just gotta not be somebody who pours gas into the back of their transom on accident, and then you really don't have to worry about it. And then remember, the things that we were able to save money on is the wooden decks, the wooden side panels, but everything that needed to be aluminum was aluminum. So all the framing and the hatches, completely aluminum. I can imagine that this boat will last tremendously longer than it initially was whenever it was first created. Anyways, guys, that's how we restored this 14-foot V-hull. And if you see one out in somebody's front yard as a lawn ornament, offer them a price and build it up. See ya.